Hello fellow coffee botherers, in this video I'm going to be talking about this, the Rok Presso Smartshot. In case you've not heard of Rok coffee makers before, Rok is a brand of manual espresso makers, which I don't believe has anything to do with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
That is good.
They also make the Rok Espresso GC and the Grinder GC, which looks a bit like a mincer, but is in fact a manual coffee grinder. What is the Presso Smartshot? This is a manual espresso maker similar to the Espresso GC, but unlike most manual espresso makers, Flair, Supercup, 9 Barista, Cafe La Robot for example, it has pressurised baskets, and it's aimed more at the mainstream market to compete with pod machines. It's been targeted as an alternative to pod machines, but also as an alternative to flexing barista skills. On their website it states, forget getting the coffee grind and tamping just right, the Presso eliminates the need to flex barista skills, just spooning coffee ground to an espresso find or cafetiere course, and squeeze down the lever arms. Don't turn to Nespresso or Keurig when you can go one better, have a free choice of coffee and be planet friendly. So this sounds like you can just spoon in coffee, any grind size and squeeze the levers. So is this true? Keep watching to find out, but first the specs. Go. The internal drip tray is about 10 centimetres or 3.9 inches deep by 13.5 centimetres or 5.3 inches wide. So if you're planning on using scales, they'll need to be fairly small. The main body is made from a high-strength, heat-resistant plastic called glass composite polymer. The levers are cast aluminium or aluminum. Portafilter and basket stainless steel with a nice wooden handle with Rok branding. Brew chamber capacity of about 75 ml, about 2.5 fluid ounces. Completely manual, of course, no electricity required, although you'll need some way to heat the water, obviously. Spring-assisted levers, lightweight and portable. How does the coffee taste? I shall now make an espresso with pre-ground dark chocolate and hazelnut Brazil from the Coffee Works, pre-ground for dual-walled basket espresso machines, and pre-ground for cafetiere or French press, and we'll see if they're right. So I'm preheating the chamber, which you have to have the portafilter in to do, or you get a mess everywhere, so you can't be prepping, doing your puck prep while you're preheating, which is a pain. I'll leave the splitter off because it's a pain in the bum. It's also a pain in the bum that you can't stand it up.
Such convenience.
Amazing. Why would you use a pod machine when you can use something so convenient as this? Sorry, Rok. Very lightly tamp it because it's dual wall basket, pressurised, doesn't need an aggressive tamp. Remember that it's backwards. Lefty tighty, righty loosey. It's a really wide splitter.
I know.
Yeah, look at that.
Just think that. Is it even a...
You know what? I'm not going to bother. Look, I'm not going to bother with Nana's false teeth. And then you go like that.
Slurp.
So we're supposed to be able to get the same kind of quality regardless of the grind size.
We'll be the judge of that.
Yes.
More importantly.
It doesn't look great. It started off looking a bit dishwatery. Still does.
Maybe the one we just made is a bit light.
Slurp.
Dishwater. We've not done this at the time of filming, so we'll do that in the future on B-roll day. So let me just speak to future Coffee Kev and ask him what he thought. Hi Kev, it's me Kev, but I'm in the past, about a week ago. What do you think? Is it correct that you can just spoon in pre-ground from espresso to cafetiere grind, or does the grind size matter more than the Rok marketing team might be suggesting? I would say grind size matters. You can't see from this angle, but looking down, that looks like a cup of slightly stewed tea. So yeah, maybe you can just scoop in any. But if you've got a finer ground espresso pre-ground, I would go for that versus filter ground. Cheers, me. Actually, future Kev, while you're there, can you just do that same test again, but instead of using freshly roasted coffee from Seaworks that will have been pre-ground on the day of roasting and on the day of dispatch, can you do it with mainstream supermarket beans so we can see if grind size maybe makes less of a difference for people using this kind of coffee? If only we were filming just then. I've just opened this can. Has anyone done this? Let me know in the comments. Opening a can of Elite Classico, and it went poof right in my face. We've got ground coffee in my eyeballs. What do you think, future me? Can you tell the difference when using pre-ground mainstream coffee from the supermarket? Yeah, so grind size definitely makes a difference. This is, even though it looks slightly better just because of the beans and the roast versus the illy, it tastes weak. It just because it's so much coarser ground.
Slurpy slurp.
You know, to be fair to Rok, they're saying that you can grab any coffee from the supermarket or whatever, regardless of grind size, from espresso to cafetiere. And you kind of can, because I think a lot of people will probably be happy with that. But I think most people would be happier with the espresso grind because it is more intense.
Slurp.
Thanks, future coffee Kev. By the way, have you been working out? Anyway, speaking of coffee beans, this is probably a good time to hear from our sponsor. This week, I was supposed to be promoting a new brand of darts, but I couldn't see the point. So, amazingly, this week's sponsor is me. My coffee from seaworks.co.uk, which I may have already mentioned, is all very freshly roasted, usually on the day of dispatch. I'd always recommend grinding your own, and for something like this, you really don't need to spend much on the grinder either. But if you insist on buying pre-ground, we'll grind it for you as we're bagging up your freshly roasted coffee beans, so it'll be about as fresh as pre-ground coffee possibly can be when it lands on your doormat. Try it. If you don't like it, you never have to buy it again. And if that isn't the deal of the century, how about a bit of a chunky discount code? Use the discount code YT25 to save 25% off your first order at seaworks.co.uk. Back to the Rok.
You're welcome.
No, not that Rok. Now, you probably have questions, which is fine, because I just so happen to have some answers. How much is it? In the UK, it's £159. In the US, it's $169. And in Germany, it's €199. How does it actually compare to pod coffee? This is a good question, given they're clearly marketing this towards pod machines. So let's test that. We need to go back to the future, Ollie. Future me? It's past me again. Can you do another test? Make a coffee with a Tassimo pod machine, an Espresso compatible machine, and the Rok Presso Smartshot, all using mainstream supermarket coffee. And let's see if you can taste the difference. Ta-da! Oh, look. Just so happens. Oh, Lo Espresso Delizio. Tassimo pod. And the Lo Espresso compatible pod. Lo Splendente. I'll start this first because with this being just as convenient as a pod machine, it'll take me about 4 times as long. Smartshot.
Long slurp.
Not as bad as I expected, to be fair to Tassimo.
Slurp.
That's the winner so far. That's all right.
Slurp.
Yeah, so to be fair, the Rok is way more like espresso than them two.
Oh, really?
Much stronger, much more intense. It's cooler. These two are both hotter. So what do we think? Yeah, so I can taste the difference. As I say, them two are hotter, but that's more intense. The Rok, I prefer that. How hot is a coffee with the Presso Smartshot and with the pod machines? 69, 68, 69. Tassimo. 65 on the Lo. 55, 56. Thanks, future coffee Kev. What about cost? Using whole bean or pre-ground coffee versus pods does represent potentially quite a big cost saving. This basket will take about 12 grams, which is roughly double the amount of coffee in an Espresso original line pod or compatible pod. If you're using chocolate brownie blend, even if you forget to use your discount code, or if you don't buy it via subscription, the most cost-effective way to buy, you'll be paying about 24 pence per cup for a coffee made with roughly double the amount of ground coffee. If you're using supermarket mainstream coffee, you could be paying as little as about 15 to 20 pence per cup. Or if you're in America, about 16 to 30 cents per cup for store-bought coffee and roughly 50 to 80 cents per cup for freshly roasted coffee. What do I like about it? I quite like the looks and the assistance of the springs. I like how simple it is to use. I think once you've made 1 or 2 coffees with this, you'll know what you're doing with it. And I like the idea of putting a pressurised basket in a machine like this to make this kind of manual espresso maker accessible to people who can't be bothered with all the faff but who don't want to use pods. I quite like the taste. It's not quite traditional espresso in intensity or body, but neither is pod coffee. What don't I like about it? As with most manual espresso machines without electricity, the preheating is a bit of a pain. Really, you need to preheat the chamber for about a minute with boiling water before you start the shot, and this detracts slightly from the idea of being just as simple and convenient as using a pod machine. Even when you do this, I found that if you don't move really quickly, I've ended up with espresso quite a bit cooler than I'd want it. It's not a big deal if you're adding hot water for Americano, but to drink neat, you just need to get your workflow to the point where you're heating up the chamber for about a minute and then going from there to pulling the shot as soon as possible. But you can't really preheat it without the portafilter in place, which means you can't leave it to preheat while you're dosing the portafilter or it gets a bit messy. Unless, of course, you just tip it upside down into the sink, which you can do. I'm not a huge fan of the plastic splitter or the plastic scoop tamper. I find these ridges a bit of a pain. If you have a spill, it gets caught in the grooves. You can't just wipe it off. Conclusion. Is the Rok Presso Smartshot just as good as pod coffee or espresso from someone who has barista skills to flex? Honestly, I'd say no. Sorry, Rok. Personally, I like the look of it. It's quite fun to use, and as I've said, using fresh or pre-ground coffee versus pods can work out much cheaper in the long run. So it's definitely an option, and if you like the look of it and you think you'd have fun using it, then great. But they're hailing it as the hero versus pods or home barista faffery, and I don't think they've quite picked the right battles there. It's not as fast and convenient as pod coffee, and the cup quality isn't quite on par with espresso made with a traditional espresso machine and grinder setup in the hands of someone with home barista skills to flex. Honestly, I think the similarly priced Hero versus Pods or home barista faffery are low-cost pressurised basket espresso machines. The DeLonghi Stellosa, for example, is cheaper than this. If you go for the 235 or 260, it'll take pre-ground coffee, and it's way more convenient, and the espresso is hotter. And if the price point isn't crucial, there's lots of other options, including fully automatic bean-to-cup coffee machines if convenient is a main priority, or integrated grinder machines with barista assistance if cup quality is equally as important to you as convenience.
Looks ice creamy. Oh God, I'm not even faking that. Has that got salt on it?
Mm-hmm. Cream. But you might want to mix it up a bit more and then try it again.
Oh! What is that?
What are you doing to me?
It's like the Marmite all over again.
I might have put a bit too
That's
much.
like salted cream.
I didn't put that much salt in, actually.
Are you sure? A mouthful of salty cream.
Nicole, please leave that in.
Now it's mixed in. It's a little bit better.
Yeah, it's a little bit better now it's mixed, but it's still horrendous. What is it?
Sea salt iced coffee.
You got the salt.
I'm going to give it 10. Minus 10.
I'm going to give it
0.
I'm going to give it 8
gonna give it-
beans out of 10. Even though I'm not scoring, but I am. If I was scoring it, I would give it 8 beans out of 10.
2 out of 10. 2 out of 10.
Don't listen to what these two talk about. It's really nice. Thank you very much for watching, and a special thank you to all the new channel members. If you want to join in the fun, click the join button, which is somewhere down here by my right ballet shoe. If you enjoyed this video, drop us a like, it really helps. And if you want more coffee content, click on my face to subscribe. Tatty bye!